If you don't know me, my name is Shane, and usually I'm up on the stage, like wiggling around on the bass or the guitar, but this morning, I get to preach, and I am super excited. So I'm going to jump right in. For the past couple of months now, we've been in a learning series called Jesus Amazed Faith. And what does that mean? What does that look like? And how do we progress and learn and grow in that? And we get our definition as believers and followers of Jesus Amazed Faith in Hebrews 11:1, which says, now faith is the assurance, and here they mean like a title deed, like a legal binding document, confirmation of that document, of things hoped for, divinely guaranteed, and the evidence of things not seen, the conviction of the reality. Faith comprehends as fact what cannot be experienced by the physical senses. Pastor Stephen he touched on this during the end of the worship, where even though you haven't seen it, tasted it, felt it, smelt it, heard it, seen it on the big screen, that God has spoken something into your life that you're believing as a legal binding documented fact, and you're going to make decisions based off of that. I'll get to that in a minute. And there's a converse of that, of just in Hebrews 11:6, which says, but without faith it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So we've been learning for the past 2 or so months that there's faith that pleases God. You can believe in God all you want, but do the demons, so it's like not a big deal. And then there's Jesus amazed faith, and that is such a crazy concept. You can blow the mind and amaze and surprise the creator of the universe. Isn't that amazing? So this morning, I want to ask you guys, and it's the title of my message, what is your response? And when Pastor Stephen asked me to preach a message, I got super excited. He said, pick a miracle, and decided to up the ante, and I'm doing 2. So you're getting 2-for-1 miracles talked about this morning. I know, it's not a big deal, but we'll see how it goes. So, but these 2 miracles are pretty popular. I don't think you've had to have grown in church. Most of us probably heard these. The first one is when Jesus, he stops a storm in the middle of the sea, which is crazy. And then the second one is when he and Peter walk on the water. But what I realized that these 2 stories are really connected, and the disciples' responses between the first one and the second one changes, and they go from merely Jesus pleasing faith / being crazies to Jesus amazed faith, and something amazing happens in their lives. And if we can grab a hold of that, I think we can see some awesome things in our lives. Amen? Cool. So I'm going to jump right in. The first miracle is going to be in Matthew 8:23 through 27. And before this, Jesus has just healed some people. He cast out a demon out of somebody. People have been bringing him, they're sick and they're ailed and everything else for a while. And it was a big crowd, and the disciples are blown away. They haven't been following him for a whole lot yet. They're still kind of learning who he is. They don't know that he's the Messiah, the Son of God. They just know he's some powerful dude who can do miracles, and that's pretty cool. But it's getting a little crazy, so Jesus says, hey, we're all going to get on a boat, and we're going to go to the other side for a minute, okay? Listen to me. There's just, okay. So we're going to pick up right in there. He's just shoot everybody off. And then verse 23 says, then he got into the boat, and the disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. Attaboy. The disciples went and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. He replied, you have little faith. Why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, what kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him. Crazy, right? So just picture it. They're on their little dinky boat to the crossing. It's called the Sea of Galilee. It's supposed to be a pretty short 2-hour journey. And out of nowhere, a storm just drops, and it's gale winds, and the water's coming up. And these are like experienced fishermen, and they are losing their minds. Just chaos. And there's probably some dummy who's just like throwing water out of the boat, and they're just like, what are you doing? We're gonna die. I'm like, I don't know. Where's Jesus? He would know what to do. Where is that guy? Oh, he's sleeping. And I relate to this 150% because I'm really good at sleep. It's like a gift from God that he has bestowed upon me, and I try to utilize it every day I can. I think I've had 5 Red Bulls this morning just to be here at 11, so, But, so Jesus is exhausted, and it shows also his humanity, which I think is really cool. He's been working and healing, and he's out. And I can relate to this because, well, I was in the military for about 6 years, believe it or not. Are there any other vets in this room? Anybody? Yeah, yes! Okay, so you know you can fall asleep on a dime. Because here's the thing about basic training. It's a nightmare, first off. It's the worst. Do it if you feel you should, but oh my gosh. For 10 weeks, they control every tiny step of your life. How you get up, how you eat, when you sleep, when you go to the bathroom sometimes. It is the worst. And this guy was dumb enough to do it. So I'm about 2 or 3 weeks in, I'm still adjusting, and I am exhausted. They wake you up at 4 with like trash cans, and then they keep you up till 11 or 12. Sometimes they'll kick in the door and like yell at you to do more push-ups. Well, it's the worst. So we're doing this training exercise in the evening, and they left us alone for a little bit, as we thought, to kind of put away our gear and get it ready. I had already done mine, and I knew I was not going to last ever. And I can't get caught napping, or I will get murdered. So everybody's all busy doing their stuff, and I'm like, what could I do? What could I do? Where could I hide? Not the bathroom, that's weird. Oh, my locker is pretty big, because it has all of my gear. It's a big size thing, and all of it's out on my bunk, so I'm like, I can make this happen. And if you think I'm skinny now, I was like way tinier then. So I was like, so I open it, move the coats, kind of wiggle in there, and I close it, and I fit, and I realize if I like kind of sink down, I can create a seat. And within seconds, I'm out. Like drooling, snoring, having dreams about being in California again, like just gone. And I think it's great. I have no idea how long I was in there. And I'm just snoozing until I hear chaos outside. People are screaming. There are drill sergeants cussing in like ways I didn't think you could cuss before. And they're just yelling, and I hear people grunting and stuff, and I'm like, oh no. So I calmly open just a fraction so my little eye can peek out, and I see my bunkmate on the other side. His name's Braden. And this dude has clearly been doing push-ups for a while. I can see sweat on the ground. He's like, and a drill sergeant walks by, who, by the way, his real name was Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, he was crazy. So he's just like, see him, walks by, and he links and goes, and he sees me. And he looks at the drill sergeant, Slaughter, and he goes, so I just went, okay. And I just hid in the closet in my little wall locker for like 15 minutes. So anyway, I say that to say, I relate to how Jesus felt in that moment. Because they're just like, do we wake him up? It's like when you're a little kid and you got scared by something and like the things, you stand like over your parents' bed and you're like, oh, your belly's out or whatever, and you're just like, they're gonna be real mad. But I'm so scared, I need to wake them. Because they're just like, we're gonna die. And they're just like, Jesus, do you care we're about to die? And he's like, what? What? He probably has like the lines from his sleeve or whatever. He's like, what? Do you have no faith? Ugh, this eye picture. I mean, just stumbles up to the front and he's like, looks at the storm raging, chaos. It's like The Perfect Storm from 2005 with Mark Wahlberg. Good movie. And he just goes, stop. And it goes instantly calm. Like crystal tranquility, just peace. A songbird flies by. The disciples are just like, who is this guy? That's not rhetorical, by the way. They really were like scared and afraid. They'd never seen someone control the weather before. And he goes back to bed. I think he went back to bed, personally. That's what I think my Jesus did. So they get to the other side, and they run around. They do more miracles, and they see Jesus closer and more intimately. He shares more about him and his heart for the kingdom. At one point, he bestows them the ability to heal people and to cast out demons, and he's showing them this is what it means to be a believer. So they've grown with him. They've gotten more intimate and close, and that's important for the next story, which is just a few chapters down in Matthew 14. Excuse me. It's fall, so we got a little stuff. So in this story, he's just fed the 5,000, which is a great miracle. Can't get into that. And they're doing great, and he's going to shoo them away. And this time he says, disciples, I need you to get in the boat and cross the sea again, and I'll catch up to you later. That's important, but I'll get to that. So we're going to start in Matthew 14, verse 22 through 33. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. What does that sound like? It's a storm. It's another storm. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. Crazy. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, here we go, "tell me to come to you on the water." I love this guy. I see so much of me in this guy right now. Oh. Jesus says, "Come." Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." By the way, that is the shortest prayer in the Bible ever. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Crazy story, right? Unbelievable. And I've heard this preached before, and usually when I hear it, it's like a rebuke on Peter, like, "How dare you doubt for a split second? Now you're all wet, you dummy." And it's like this weird, I guess this bad view of who Jesus is. And that's not what's being communicated here at all. But I want to focus on 3 specific responses the disciples did in the first story and how it changed in the second one that brought about this Jesus-amazed faith and what that means for us. Are you with me? Yeah. So the key about this story, these 2 stories, is it's in the same sea called the Sea of Galilee. Same one. It's the same disciples. Might even be the same boat. I can't imagine there were a lot of boats back then or that they had just a whole bunch ready to go. Same storm and circumstance, and the response was different. Okay, so the first response I want to talk about is in the first story, that's the second one. In the first one, they followed, but in the second story, they were sent. If you remember, in the first story, Jesus says, "Come with me, we're getting into the boat, and we're going to cross the sea." And they're just like, "Okay." They have no idea what's happening. They don't know what's coming. They don't know where they're going even. Jesus is just, "Follow me, you dummies. We're going to teach you some stuff." But in the second one, after they've gotten close to him and learned some things about him, he says, "I need you all to go down to the same sea that almost killed you earlier, get in the boat and cross it, and I'll meet with you guys later." And that's important to understand because when you have a revelation of what God can do in your life, like they did, they saw him calm it with the word. They knew that no matter what happened on that sea, that they were going to get to the other side. Didn't matter that they almost died the first time. Didn't matter if a storm came or not. Didn't matter if 14 storms came, a dragon. They knew that Jesus said, "I'm commanding you, get to the other side of where you're going because I'm going to get you there no matter what it looks like." And it leads to the second point, the second response they had, which is first they feared and then they endured. The first time, they get a little water on the boat and they lose their minds and they think they're going to die. It's maybe an hour into it. But in the second one, it says that Jesus didn't go out to them until dawn. And I said before that Sea of Galilee takes about 2 hours to cross. That means that they've been out there in that ocean fighting a storm all night, 8 or 9 hours. No mention of them being terrified or tired. We know this because it doesn't say they're terrified until Jesus shows up and scares them. And not about you, but when you're in a panic and you think you're going to die, you don't really notice little details, right? And here's the thing about fear. One, I hate fear because it causes such chaos. It'll cause you to lash out to the people that you love. It'll cause you to make the worst decisions ever. And it just wears you down. It literally wears down on your body. Fear does. It just presses you down. And it's nonsense. But in that second story, as soon as Peter hears his voice, one, he's been rowing and fighting against the sea for 9 hours, but as soon as he hears Jesus, he goes, "Can I just get to you? I don't care what it looks like. I don't care that this is all happening because you'll stop this whenever you want. I just want to be next to you and close to you." And that leads me to the third response that happens at the end of the story. In the first one, they're like, "Who is this guy who can control the winds and the waves? This is insane." But the second one, they said, "Surely this is the Son of God." And you can't have Jesus-amazed faith if you don't know who Jesus truly is. That's so basic, but it's so impactful. I've been studying this for 3 months, and every single day that challenges me. Do I really, honestly, truly believe in who Jesus is. Not in some cutesy Sunday school. They had some weird dorky like placards up and they show me the story, but an impactful, I've heard his command and I'm willing to make crazy decisions to get to him. Because Jesus-amazed faith will cause you to make decisions based on the Son and not on the situation. That's the dumbest thing in the world for Peter to step out into a crazy storm to get to him. That's suicide. It's silly. But he knew, I'm going to get to you. And here's the thing about the Sea of Galilee that they were on. That was everything for them. They spent their whole lives around that sea. They knew the high tide, the low tide. Most of them were fishermen. That was how they got their income. They knew when they were supposed to fish. They knew what fish were in there. They knew when something was wrong. They knew the weather patterns. A little side note, the Sea of Galilee is kind of in a low depression. It's got a low sea level, but there's mountains surrounding it. So storms happen anytime that can kill you. So they were constantly afraid. But that was their normalcy. That was their environment. And for us, we all have that. Sea of Galilee, call it your life. It's how you were raised. It's what you do for your job. It's your relationships. It's your sicknesses. It's those things that you say, well, that's just my personality. I'm always, angry because that's just how God made me. Like, that's the storm. That's the sea. That's what you think is reality. And anytime, anytime a little bit of water comes on, you just you freak out, but you just think that's life. Right? I've dealt with this. For me, the Sea of Galilee is the fact that I never met my biological father, and I grew up in a trailer traveling a lot, and I joined the army, and I went through a divorce, and I can I struggled with an anger problem for a long time. I used to be so angry, and I can just let these stack up. Like, that's my sea, and the storms that are going to come, well, I'll just deal with it, which is not the same as enduring, by the way. There's a difference between enduring and just dealing with it. Because enduring, they weren't tired, they weren't frustrated, they knew they were going to get to the other side despite the storm. Whereas they were dealing with it the first time by panicking and waking up people. Right, amen? And Peter, he had this revelation. He understood who Jesus was because he'd stepped out of the boat. And when it says, Jesus, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water. And I looked up for the Greek because I'm a big Bible nerd. That on the water, that doesn't imply he knew he was going to walk on the water. He just said, Jesus, if it's you, let me come to you. I'm just going to climb off this boat. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to look like. I don't know what's going to feel like. I just know that you've changed my life and that you are incredible. And that anytime you speak a command, it happens. You've upturned my life in the most beautiful way. And I just need to be next to you. And I don't care if the storm is raging or not, because I'm going to be close to you. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be secure. And nothing can touch me. And then we get to that part where he starts to sink, and everybody's like, well, there it is. There's the lesson. You can't doubt ever. And he's like, but no, it says that Jesus immediately picked him up. He didn't stand back like, well, that sucks, bro. Just watching Peter just help. And he's just like, mwah. You kind of did this to yourself. You made a bad investment. You got into a bad relationship. Let's just let you sit there and stew so you can learn your lesson, which is totally how God works, apparently, in this story. No, it says that he immediately pulled him up. Isaiah 41:10 says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And he pulled Peter immediately out of the water. And guess what? Peter walked on the water twice. We have this image, I've had this image where when I think he steps off the boat, he makes 2 little baby steps, and then immediately he starts to sink, and Jesus is like, oh no, and he runs to him or something. But when Jesus says, come, he's walking towards him, and Peter's like, hey, let me come to you. And I think Jesus just, come. And he stopped. And Peter obviously got so close enough that Jesus just had to reach out to get him, which means he walked all that way. And another thing about that story that really blows my mind is it says that when Peter saw the wind, not when it was affecting him, the whole time he was safe and secure going towards Jesus. And he's like, It was, I just need to get to you. For me, I'm waiting for this healing in my life. I'm waiting for this certain security, or I'm waiting for this doctor's report to come back positive, or I'm waiting for this promotion to come, or I'm waiting to retire early, or whatever it is that we're believing for, that we felt that God had put in our hearts, or maybe someone prayed it over you, or you read the word and you're like, that's supposed to be me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to believe in that. I'm going to step out of everything I view as normal and good and correct to follow you, even though it may look silly or stupid or suicidal or illogical. Not like, sorry, that's a bad phrase, but it looks like chaos. So I'm going to step out. Oh, it's working. Okay, I've been reading my Bible. I've been pursuing you. I've been praying. I've been tithing. I've been, not every time I feel stress, I go back to the word and I pray it. But then the doctor's report comes in, or you lose your job, or some chaos comes in, and you're like, it hasn't affected you yet, but you think it's about to, and you start to sink, and you freak out. But Jesus, every step of the way of his journey and their journey, anytime they started to fear for the splittest, tiniest, minutest second, he says, fear not. Fear not. Fear not. Immediately. Every single tiny second. There's, oh no, I'm going to slink. No, you're good, you're fine. And that when he says, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? We take that to mean like, wow, he's like really giving him the 1-2, isn't he? Wow, like go get him, Jesus. When he's, that phrase, oh, you of little, you of little faith. He says it one other time in Matthew 8. He's reminding him of, it's like, you of little faith. It's almost like a pet name. He's saying, don't you remember when I did this for you before? When I calmed the storm for you? Why are you doubting? I have you in my arms. And I think we overlook this. We've been in this series for 2 months over, learning about miracles and how God wants to step into us. And I think some of us had breakthrough, but a lot of us haven't. And it's like, what, am I doing something wrong? Am I sinning? Do I not just have enough faith? Am I not praying enough, or in my Bible? What's going on? And that's not the point. The point is every single tiniest fraction of a second that you feel afraid or insecure or tired, or you can't endure anymore because the storm just hasn't lifted up yet, and you're like, what do I do? You have to say 3 words. Jesus, save me. He didn't give some crazy big, amazing prayer speech. He didn't rattle off 1,000,000 Bible verses, but you are the God of this, and you're going to do this thing for me. He wasn't rallying himself up emotionally. He just said, Jesus, save me, in the most purest thing, and he stepped in. I don't know about you guys, but there's been many times in my life where I've tried to take that step out of faith, out into the waters, to believe in something crazy and illogical and miraculous. And there are moments when I think I'm doing fine and I'm neck deep in water, and I'm like, why do I feel so bad believing in this? It's not supposed to. He gives us endurance to believe in him. Jesus-amazed faith will cause you to make decisions based on the Son and not the situation. We all have situations, right? I'm sorry, but if you came to church believing that God's just going to wipe away everything, he's not. He stops the storms, but the storms still came. The storms still come. The Sea of Galilee is the same. Those storms are still there. That's life. We live in a fallen world. Storms are going to come. People are going to get sick. You're going to lose a job, or a car is going to break down. People are going to die. That's going to happen. But He will cause you to endure those storms, and then he'll stop it. And here's the amazing part, is you have Peter out here with him, having this revelation that he is the Son of God, and you have 11 other people watching him in the boat. And I guarantee you there are more than 11 people watching all of us. Not to be perfect, not to be perfect Christians, not to never fall short, not to ever get stressed, but that every single time we're believing in something and we falter for just a second, we just say, Jesus, save me, and they get to watch as he pulls you up. And that's the difference. You have to do nothing but just take a step out.